You are Locked On Wolves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
T-Wolves lose one of the, Jack, craziest back-and-forth battles we've seen all year in overtime to the Pacers tonight. Final score 130-128. What's going on? Back in the lab, back at it. Another T-Wolves postcast episode right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. Your team every day. Again, Jack Borman with me as always. Give him a follow on X, won't you? At JRBorman13. Jack, lots to get into. How the Wolves' 8-game win streak was finally snapped tonight. Plus, Rudy Gobert ejected. The ripple effect that had of the team in the third quarter. But first, quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by Game Time. Game Time, download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. All right, so Wolves obviously looking for their 9th in a row tonight. Pacers in town, down there. Top 6 guys going in. So on paper, this was supposed to look a lot like it did last night versus the Jazz. Easy breezy, 20, 30-point victory. Got all the young pups in with 5-6 minutes to go. But that was anything but the case. Down 9 in the third quarter. Rudy Gobert gets ejected with the flagrant 2. That seemed to almost flip a switch, though. That almost hyped the team up because they went from down 9 to up 9 in the span of about 8, 9, 10 minutes. Ant had 14 in the third quarter alone. DDV added 11 in the third quarter. Those two kind of carried the show and got them kind of back into it. Wolves go kind of cold from 3 in the fourth quarter, and you got to give a lot of credit to Indiana. They just played with a lot of extra juice, a lot of extra energy. I don't think anybody saw coming tonight, not to mention just a barrage of big-time three-pointers, shot after shot, specifically from Obi Toppin, who had a career-high 34 points. So to OT we go. Wolves up 6. Pacers hit a 3. Wolves come up empty on the next possession, and with 3.5 seconds left, Toppin does it again. Just this miracle, YOLO fadeaway 3 from the corner with the defender in his face, a la Reggie Miller. Julius Randle missed the 2-point attempt to tie it, and the Wolves drop it was a slugfest tonight, man. 10 games above 500 now, sitting at 40-30 on the year. Big picture, Jack. You think when we look back at this game and this loss, how much of this loss just boils down to Indiana just couldn't miss when it mattered most, and sometimes you got to throw your hands up and just give credit where credit's due. As tough as that is to hear in the moment, what's your take right now, kind of big picture on this one?
I don't know. It's one of those games where, there wasn't a whole lot of trying to sit and formulate takes and just more of absolutely in awe of what you were seeing. I mean, the pace at which this game was played at down the stretch was just absolutely off the rails. And the way that the Pacers just kept coming was super admirable for, how many guys they were down. I mean, and then they were, also down Ben Mathurin in that last 3 minutes. I mean, Ben Mathurin goes down, fouls out, the Wolves are up 5 with 3 minutes left. And what happens then? The Pacers go on this run, tie it, and here we are. So I think, too, one thing that I was really perplexed by was the Timberwolves not challenging that Dante DiVincenzo hustle play at the end of regulation. I understand Finchie wanting to potentially keep a timeout in case they need one to advance the ball or whatever at the end of the game. But you call that timeout, you get a 6 that you would have won that challenge. And you get your timeout back, and then you have, the free throw game coming. So I think that, they had an out there and they just didn't take it, which was tough. But I mean, you got to shake Obi Toppin's hand, man. Career high 7 made threes for him. Almost set a new career high in scoring. I think he had one 42-point game with the Knicks, but I mean, just really an incredible display of shot making from him. And I think, you can't really get mad at the Timberwolves defense on either of those two plays. If you look at the replay, I mean, Jaden McDaniels is right there. I mean, was a 1/10 of a second away from blocking that. And then Nickeil Alexander-Walker couldn't have played any better defense on that shot falling away in the left corner. So, I think you got to give a lot of credit to the Pacers. That certainly doesn't take away, how important and bad of a loss this is for the Timberwolves. No question about it. We can kind of get into, some of the culprits with that. But
can I ask you just real quick, just because the chat is going nuts about this, Mike Conley in the game late fourth OT, no Jalen Clark. A lot of where was Jalen Clark late in this one? Did you also have that same thought process, or what's your, I guess, just quick 2 cents as far as maybe Finch's, kind of mind frame, I guess, or blueprint, why he had those two specific guys, one in, one out?
Yeah, I don't know why he wasn't going offense defense at the end. I also really disagree with Jaden McDaniels not being out there on that last play of the game, considering how important he was. But yeah, I understand why he left Mike in there offensively, just because the offense was kind of struggling there. And I think, being able, with Ant getting double teamed essentially at the top on every ball screen with them blitzing and playing in that high wall coverage, you want to have guys that can handle the ball on either side of Ant. So they're one pass away, guys that can then, play off the catch and make good passes. And so I understand the reasoning there, but not trying to make a better effort to go offense defense, especially when TJ McConnell was just cooking Mike Conley down the stretch of this game. They had to put Jaden McDaniels on him, which was kind of crazy that, he had Jaden McDaniels on him. He still scored, down the stretch of that game. So I think pretty much any type of criticism about what happened at the end of the game is somewhat warranted, but it's just a bummer that they totally let a game slip away. And there's, not many games upcoming where they're going to have a better chance of walking away with a win than they had tonight.
Where do you want to go from here? You want to go to the turning point?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I don't know that I necessarily have one, considering considering what happened and how many.
How about this? I'll give you 5 seconds to think about it.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
It's funny because at the time, there were so many times here, Jack, when I was like, oh, they're going to pull this one out. And we were going to look back and say the turning point was like when Rudy got ejected and kind of flipped a switch, a spark ignited, if you will. Again, that third quarter, they were down 9. And again, if you didn't see it, Mike Conley gets kind of a shot to the face, and Rudy Gobert kind of, I guess, retaliates and throws a big boy shoulder. I forget the guy's name, and he got ejected as well. But that's what kind of sparked everything. You can take it from there.
Yeah, I loved that Rudy Gobert stood up for Mike Conley.
Yeah.
I thought that, he definitely wasn't trying to go like shoulder to the head. I think it was just because Nembhard is so short that he ended up hitting Nembhard in the head. So it definitely should have been a flagrant 1 if Rudy didn't, clip him in the head. So it was a warranted flagrant 2, but Nembhard had already had a technical foul at that point. So Nembhard then throwing the ball at Gobert, ended up, it kind of is like a game of chess, right? When you've, both players have their queen, but one side has way more pieces beyond the queen. So you feel good making the queen for queen trade. And that's kind of what that was, considering the Pacers already down 4 starters. Nembhard's their best player, active in that game. You take him out of the game. Feels like a fair trade because the Pacers, are just going to have to ride TJ McConnell for the rest of the game. And the Timberwolves have found success without playing with Rudy Gobert. And I think in some cases they were struggling a ton offensively. So taking Rudy Gobert out of the equation, may allow for a little bit more spacing, help Ant get a little bit more of a flow going downhill. And that's certainly what happened in this game. I mean, Ant just completely took over the game in the third quarter, getting downhill and really getting to the free throw line. Ant had a career high 19 made free throws, a career high, I think 20 free throw attempts in this game tonight. So I love the way that he got downhill because that 3-point shot was not falling for Ant. He was 1 of 11 from 3 tonight. So I think that was super important. And then, when Ant gets downhill, I think that just gets everyone else energized, and his teammates around him played really well off of that. And, I just love the way, especially that, his teammates kind of rode that momentum into the fourth quarter, right? Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Jaden McDaniels combined for, I think it was like the first 7 points of that fourth quarter. And then you had a couple of blocks from Naz and Jaden to make it a 10-0 run. So I think the way that they just kind of played and fed off of Ant was super important. And then, I think I guess the turning point for the Pacers the other way is just that, when you're down that big, right? It's kind of like March Madness coming up. Tournament starts this coming week. I think when you're an undermanned team and you're a huge underdog, what do you have to do, right? You just kind of keep taking these shots because you've got nothing to lose, and you kind of turn it into a math equation in some cases. And that's how we've seen a lot of the 16s beat the ones, is just, getting up a bunch of threes and trying to, just make enough shots where you're just staying within a possession, 2 possessions, 3 possessions, maybe at worst, where the pressure is just on the other team the whole entire game. And you got to credit the Pacers for, staying aggressive offensively and hunting down those 3-point shots and somehow finding a way to make enough of them between, Obi Toppin banking it in and then having that fadeaway. So I think, again, when you play super hard, you take and make more threes than your opponent in a game like this. Good things can happen. So just kind of a crazy, really turn of events. And I guess it's kind of hard to say that there's a definitive turning point in a game where, there's 27 lead changes and 19 ties.
Yeah, probably like Jeff said in the chat, like you're up 128, 123 with 62 seconds left. That was probably the turning point right there. Ant, 79 points in the last 28, 29 hours or so. Unfortunately, just 1-1. Wolves, by the way, 2-2 now on the year in overtime. Plenty more deep dive from this one, including some team stats that really stuck out tonight, plus a little deep dive on Jaden McDaniels' game. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by FanDuel. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Right now, FanDuel is giving you a chance at a huge return, $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you win your first $5 wager. Why I love FanDuel? When you get the hunch in the middle of the game, you can go check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. Again, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you win your first $5 wager. Go check it all out over at FanDuel.com. Get on some NBA future action while you're there. Naz Reid, 6 Man of the Year odds sitting at 4-1. It's all sitting up over at FanDuel.com. Again, check it all out over at FanDuel.com and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you win your first $5 bet. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. A little bit deeper dive here, Jack. Any team stats that really blew you away? I feel like there's kind of a lot to choose from. Again, fast break points. You talk about the pace the Pacers played with tonight. Points off turnovers. I mean, Wolves had 29 points off turnovers. 3-point percentage from Indiana was off the charts. Which one of those, I guess, did you really not see coming tonight, for good or bad, I guess?
Yeah, I'll give you one to start, and then we'll go there. Well, for this from Alan Horton, the Timberwolves radio play-by-play guy. Yeah. Wolves have now missed their last 11 game tying or go-ahead shots in the final 10 seconds of fourth quarter or overtime.
Wow. So
feels about right, because Ant's taken like all of them and missed like all of them. He's just been absolutely horrible in super late game situations. And
more on Ant or more on Finch? Drawing up
both.
A play.
I think both. I think, Ant's not doing a whole lot with what Finch is drawing up for him. But Finch not using Ant as a decoy to try to get someone else going is crazy at one of these points. I mean, I guess credit for him to trying to go to Randall at the end of the fourth quarter overtime. It's not like he really got a great shot. So
they couldn't go back to Ant in that situation after what happened leading into overtime, right? And really, I mean, he knew he was going to get trapped, and at the end of the day, like, it was more about just like coughing that ball up that chewed up an extra 2 seconds that they really didn't have. But a lot of frustration in that for sure, and it feels like that, Jack. What'd you say? 10 in a row? It feels like they haven't hit a clutch money time game winning or game tying shot in that long too. That's been crazy. Any other team stats? Didn't want to cut you off.
Yeah, no, I anytime you're plus 19 in the points off turnover battle, I would venture to guess that teams have a winning percentage of over 90%. It's just pretty crazy that they found a way to lose. But again, Timberwolves missed seven free throws tonight. Julius Randle was 6 of 10, from the free throw line. That's in a game you lose, that goes to overtime, you lose by 2. Randle would probably tell you he's got to be better. He can't miss 4 free throws. free throws in those types of situations. And then, I do think that the Timberwolves, they had like 8 or 9 turnovers in that first half, and they only had 6 or 7 the rest of the game. So I think, the way that they really tamped down the turnovers was really nice to see. But I think it just at the end of the day, this game just kind of boils down to the 3-point line. I mean, Indiana was 17 of 37, 46%, Wolves 13 or 42. And, it's just kind of one of those, live by the 3-ball, die by the 3-ball games that sometimes you get. And yeah, again, like it's just tough when you have stretches like the Timberwolves had there. In that second quarter where, you have a 7-minute stretch where you go 1 of 16 from the floor in the second quarter on that Pacers 23-4 run, where, you just can't have that in a game like this. I think, again, you just give a team life. All these guys are pros. They've earned their way to the NBA. They're here for a reason. And, they're still super talented, and give teams confidence and life like that. And you're just playing with fire. And it's just unfortunate that the Timberwolves didn't come earlier on in this game with the requisite energy that they needed. It looked really, really tough for them to get going in that first half. And it's pretty inexcusable considering that, none of the real Timberwolves rotation guys played many minutes in that fourth quarter last night. Only one guy played more than 30 minutes. So just
the Wolves
tough.
5 starters tonight: Randall, McDaniels, Rudy. Okay, doesn't count. Mike Conley, Anto, 5 for 21 tonight from 3-point range. Naz Reid, nice little bounce back game, would you say? 21 points, 3 for 7 from 3. Jaden McDaniels, I know you have in your notes, played a pivotal role tonight to get them back into this one. What'd you see? Call out one of them: Naz Reid, bounce back game, or Jaden McDaniels' role tonight?
Sorry, that it boils down to I hate this team. That's man. got a chuckle out of me. No, but yeah, just super quick on Naz. I mean, great to see Naz come back tonight. Naz.
Yeah.
I think he'd had 21 points. I have the number pulled up here, but yeah, he had 21 points in his previous 3 games combined. So it was, on 8 of 26 shooting, 4 of 16 from 3. So he had more makes tonight from the floor than he had in the previous 3 games combined, and matched his total scoring output from the last 3 games. So huge to see Naz get back on track. I did not think it was his best defensive game that he's ever played. And I think he would probably tell you that as well. But, Jaden McDaniels made up for a lot of that with the way that he played on both ends of the floor. It was a big time role reversal there in that fourth quarter where, Dante DiVincenzo missed 2 very wide open threes for Dante. And, on the scale that he's playing at, anything more than a hand right in your face is a wide open 3 for him. He missed both of them, and Jaden McDaniels bailed him out with that corner 3. Thought he did a great job cutting and when guys would overdrive the lane and get underneath the rim, he did a great job of putting himself in position for those wraparound passes, and made several good wraparound passes of his own that Rudy Gobert just wasn't ready for in the first quarter, in the early part of the second quarter. So, yeah, it was really nice to see him just kind of continue to pick his spots and really find, ways where he can impact the game scoring. And again, 7 rebounds is a great number for him to be pretty much living at these days. So I thought that, Jaden kind of got screwed a little bit with some ticky-tack fouls that we haven't seen him get whistled for in quite some time. And he definitely would have been, on his way to another, maybe 2010 game if, he doesn't have to sit for the majority of that second quarter with, picking up, was it the second quarter or was it the first quarter? Yeah, he had to sit the majority of the first quarter with those 2 early fouls, and then, had to do the same thing in the third quarter, had to sit the majority of the third quarter with picking up his 4th foul. So it was just a bummer that the Wolves, really needed him and, kind of got played off the floor because of that. So, yeah, but again, super nice night for the Wolves bench. I mean, between Naz and Dante, those 2 guys had 40 points off the bench, and then Nikhil had, 8 points, 9 rebounds, and was super important and kind of, igniting and lighting that target center on fire with energy at the start of the fourth quarter.
All right, a little bit more deep dive. I do want to talk about this Pelicans game that's coming up Wednesday night. Plus, we'll wrap up with what we'll be talking about. That's all coming up right after this.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Oh, get me back in here. Come on, Jack. What's going on? There you go. There we go. We're back. We're live, baby. We're live. Hey, it's St. Patty's Day, man. We're off the rails. That game was off the rails. I just want to move on, man. All right. I never want to talk about Obi Toppin again. Pelicans up next, right? Wednesday night. First of two. We get them Wednesday. We get them Friday. 18-51 on the year. Losers of 3 in a row just got smoked by the Detroit Pistons tonight. Great opportunity. Pistons. Yeah, that's right. Great opportunity, I would think here, Jack, to bounce back here, start this winning streak all over again. This is a different Pelicans team than at least what I remember seeing versus the Wolves here the last couple matchups. Break it down for us. How's this one look?
Yeah, no question. Timberwolves killer Brandon Ingram, no longer a member of the New Orleans Pelicans. He got traded to the Toronto Raptors for Bruce Brown, who was ejected from tonight's game, and Kelly Olynyk. And then no DeJounte Murray either, who they picked up this past offseason. He tore his Achilles earlier this season, and then Herb Jones is out for the season with a shoulder injury. So, missing some key guys there, but you still, and also this has changed tonight too. Trey Murphy left the game in the first quarter with a shoulder injury. He did not return tonight. So, another team that's going to be down quite a bit of guys has, I guess, Pelicans more so than the Pacers have no interest in winning from an organizational standpoint. But they still have Zion Williamson and CJ McCollum. And when you have those two guys on your team, like capability for offense to explode on any given night is still there. And, it's kind of like what you'd expect with a team. Some of their numbers are what you'd expect from a team with, those two guys on your team. They're top 5 in points in the paint. It's just about 57 a game the last 5. They're about +5 in the paint, which is 8th in the league the last 5 games. And they're 5th and second chance points in the last 5 games, 18 points a game. And they've been offensive rebounding really well. Offensive rebound rate of about 35, but they have been struggling on the defensive glass. About a 66% defensive rebound rate, which is bottom 5 in the league. So, it's going to be another game where they've got to win the turnover battle. Pelicans are really bad on both ends in terms of turnovers. They turn it over a lot themselves. Bottom 5 in offensive turnover percentage at 16%. And then opponent turnover percentage at just 11.7% is a really bad number. And you put those two together and you get a team that generally loses quite a bit in the turnover or points off turnover differential battle. They're minus 5.6 the last 5. So again, you take care of the ball, you prevent Zion from going absolutely nuclear, upwards of 35, 40 points a game. And I think you should be all right considering that, Jaden McDaniels has normally had his way with CJ McCollum, just not a guy that has the explosion off the dribble to get by Jaden. So I think it'll be a game where Jaden guards, CJ McCollum, and they'll put Randall on Zion, kind of what we, got used to seeing Kyle Anderson do for a couple years when he was here. So it'll be interesting to see, how that matchup goes. And, again, zero excuse for the Timberwolves to not win both of these games, especially if Trey Murphy is not going, because the Timberwolves need every game that they can get with the teams above them continuing to win.
How does this work with Rudy Gobert now getting ejected? Any chance at all he could be suspended, I guess? And would that come into play the very next game, or how does that process work?
No, Rudy will be out there.
Problem. Okay, good to go. All right. What we'll be talking about, let's go there.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Very interested to see what you got tonight for this one. What is the water cooler talk tomorrow at work after this one? What are people texting tonight in the T-Wolves group chats tonight after this frustrating loss?
Yeah, I think it'll just be about the shot making and decision making down the stretch from Anthony Edwards. It's just, kind of a rinse and repeat thing where, for whatever reason in the regular season, Ant really, really struggles. And then in the playoffs, he just rises into this different beast that we've really enjoyed the last few years. But in the regular season, once we get into that clutch time, for whatever reason, he just tends to abandon what gets him to to a good standing in the game. He stops driving as much. He settles for more just ill-advised jump shots. He just dribbles the air out of the ball for 12 13 seconds when they cross the timeline at 18 seconds. So even if you're making a pass, you're only giving guys 3 4 5 6 seconds to do something with the ball. And that's just tough for a guy that's already in year 5 or year 6 now for Ant, who's been through a lot of these battles, has been very used to having the ball in his hands, has seen every type of defensive coverage, and has proven that he can beat every type of defensive coverage and knows what he needs to do. But for whatever reason, the wheels maybe are just spinning too quickly, or he's too set in his ways, or he's too prideful. I don't know what the internal dialogue that he has, but yeah, it's just unfortunate that he can't more consistently make the right plays later on in games. And I think that for Ant, he's just got to recognize sometimes when he's trying to do a little bit too much and try to lead more on his teammates. I think that we've seen that Donzie DiVincenzo, Julius Randle, both when Ant got rid of the ball, made some plays at the end of that game and into overtime. And same goes for Jaden McDaniels and Naz Reid as well. So I think that, everybody kind of needs to take ownership of that. I think some of his teammates need to do a better job of holding him accountable. I think Chris Finch needs to do a better job at times of holding Ant accountable. I'm sure that he does plenty of that outside of the bounds of the game. But, in the game, I think that sometimes everybody involved needs to realize that sometimes, giving the ball to Ant every single possession down the stretch is not the way to go. Or if you're going to do it, try to get him off the ball first and then, work him off a, staggered pin down or something like that, where he can catch the ball in the move where it's harder to double team him. So I think those are just kind of some things that sometimes work really well for Ant, and in other nights have worked really poorly. But in a lot of these clutch time losses this season, it's been because Anthony Edwards hasn't been good enough. And it's just sometimes a hard thing to comprehend, considering just how incredible he's looked in the playoffs, especially last season. So I don't know what the disconnect is. And I don't think the Timberwolves fully know what the disconnect is either. Otherwise, I think, some of these problems would get solved. But again, for the Timberwolves now, in clutch time, they've played the most clutch games in the league, 42. That's 3 more than any other team. They're now 18-24 in those games, and they're bottom 10 in clutch time offense.
I feel like that doesn't bode well for the playoffs. When I just think about the teams you're going to be playing in the playoffs, you're going to be in a lot of more clutch time situations, I would assume anyways. But maybe this is their learning moments here during the season, and they can figure it out come playoff time. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to think about, right? Because the Timberwolves are in a very similar spot last season. They were right now. The Timberwolves are 23rd in offensive rating in the clutch. Last season they were 22nd in overall net rating in the clutch. Last season, the Timberwolves were 27th at -13 net rating. This season, they are 23rd at -7.6. So they've been better in the clutch. And funny enough, it's because their defense has been a lot better in the clutch. But, there's plenty of time for the Timberwolves to, iron out some of these things, because there's film of them doing it. It's just a matter of stacking it up. And oddly enough, the Timberwolves have played really, really well against the top 10 teams in the league. Just in terms of their overall record and both their offensive and defensive rating. So it's, again, like, I don't think you can use this game to say why they will or won't be successful in the playoffs. But,
just one side of the coin. I know we're all very, very hopeful, and we see, obviously, the ceiling this team has. They can go in and beat anybody on any given night, especially when things ramp up for the playoffs. But for sure, going to be interesting. What are we down to? 13 games left, Jack? 1, 2, 3, 12? Got to be 12 or 13 games, I feel like. Wolves drop a brutal loss in OT to the Pacers down their top 6 guys. 8-game win streak snapped. 130, 128. That's your final score. 40-30 now on the year. 10 games above 500. As always, huge shout out to all the everydayers out there that always make us your first listen. All you guys coming in the chat with us from game to game, venting with us from game to game after games like this anyways. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. And please go follow Jack at JR Borman 13, usually live from the Target Center, more games than not. Pelicans up next. Wednesday night, it's a 6:30 p.m. tip. We'll catch you right here, same time, same place. But until then, signing.